Well, hi there, and welcome to a quick tasting. We've just kicked off vintage 2021, but a good opportunity to showcase a few wines from our previous vintage, and particularly looking at some of our Italian varieties. So, first wine to kick it off is a very new release, our 2020 Negroamaro. So, this is a fairly new variety for us. And originally coming from the southern part of Italy, but has really shown up to be quite a light, fragrant, medium-bodied red from McLaren Vale.
The name Negroamaro translates essentially to black and bitter, but this certainly doesn't describe the wine. It's quite light, very fragrant. It does have some lovely Amaro, bitter herb-like characters, but it is very fragrant. Out of all of our reds, probably the lightest we produced. Very soft tannin. It's quite large berries in the vineyard, and so it ends up with a wine highly perfumed, medium-bodied, very soft, and great, slightly chilled, especially in this sort of weather. 32 degrees today. It can certainly handle half an hour in the fridge before you consume it. But it does have impressive volume still. It's medium-bodied, but it still has great depth of flavour.
Yeah, I think that's what's been really attractive about it, but still a lot of complexity in its flavours, ranging from those sort of herbal bitter elements to some really floral lavender rose characters and everything in between. So yeah, really interesting drink. Next we're looking at our 2020 Nero.
So this is the variety's Nero d'Avola, which we've grown here for about 12 or 13 years, and it grows mainly at the top of the hill. That top site is very exposed, and we've tried growing all sorts of things there in the past, but Nero d'Avola was the one that took and thrive. It did. It's a beautiful variety to grow, quite tough, drought resistant, but then produces this lovely, fragrant, very aromatic, slightly more weight than the Negroamaro, but still just medium bodied, and it's certainly one of our most consistent performers in cellar door. It's very hard to resist the fragrance of this wine.
Yeah, there's a lot more of those sort of red berries and forest fruits, and very, again, quite low tannin, so it does get into bottle very early. Probably our earliest wine, red wine from the vintage into bottle. But yeah, just a bit more plushness of fruit through the palate, but yeah, really just gorgeous, soft, fruit-driven wine.
It was travelling through Sicily that this variety was, I guess, pinpointed as having potential. It's grown throughout Sicily, but the wines that we're most impressed with are from the southeast, near Vittoria. Ceresolo di Vittoria is the DOCG, the only DOCG in Sicily, where it's blended with Frappato, another variety, but climatically very similar to McLaren Vale, a warm Mediterranean climate, but still producing these wines with freshness and moderate alcohol and just medium bodied. So a great contrast to richness and opulence of McLaren Vale Shiraz.
So our third wine we're looking at today is our 2020 Montimaro. Now Montimaro is not the variety. This was sort of a concept of co-fermenting some of our favourite Italian varieties to really highlight the best of each variety. So Montepulciano, Sangiovese, Negroamaro and Nero d'Avola all fermented together, and really to get the structure and the darkness from the Montepulciano through to the fragrance and lightness of the Negroamaro and the beautiful fruits of the Nero d'Avola comes together to a quite an interesting Italian blend.
Yeah, it's lovely, savoury, much more Italian tannins, so really savoury, chewy tannins. There's plenty of structure to get into. Again, just medium bodied, which we find really important, around 13.5% alcohol. And the Montepulciano and the Negroamaro are from our block in Wallanga, an earlier ripening site, but later ripening varieties that then we managed to co-ferment with Sangiovese and Nero d'Avola grown on the estate here at Coriole, which is a later ripening site, but earlier ripening varieties. So that's how we're able to get these four varieties that don't necessarily ripen at the same time to pick them at the same time because of where they're grown in different ripening parts of McLaren Vale. So there's a bit of thought that goes behind it, and a lovely savoury medium-bodied red.
Yeah, it's a beautiful fragrance and medium body, but still nice length of tannin there. So, really great food wine for sure.
The next wine is 2019. The others are all 2020. So this is Montepulciano, which is the variety. Typically grown in Abruzzo in central Italy, not to be confused with Vino Nobile di Montepulciano, which is a town in Chianti that is Sangiovese. Montepulciano has been grown at Coriole for probably about 20 years now in a small way, and but in the last 7 or 8 years we've planted a lot more. It is such a tough variety, great acid retaining abilities, very late ripening, very tough viticulturally, drought tolerant, and there's some strange viticultural quirks that you have to work with Montepulciano, but all in all it's a fantastic variety. Of the three, has the most weight and depth and structure, but has this beautiful combination of savoury elements and dark red fruit. So it's in some ways it's on its journey to a McLaren Vale Shiraz, but not as plush and soft. It's more savoury and lovely, intense, rich flavours.
Yeah, it's always amazing the kind of richness and I guess the darkness of colour you see in the winery very early on with Montepulciano, and has this incredible lifted perfume through fermentation. It's pretty amazing. But yeah, it's got a bit more of that classic fruit and middle palate that you might expect from Shiraz, but a very different tannin profile, sort of Italian tannin profile. Sees a little bit more time in oak than some of our other Italian reds, really to deal with that structure, but something with a bit more serious characters to it, and
it could handle some age as
handle
well.
A bit of age, sure.
This would sell well for 5 to 10 years. So quite a range of styles, from very light, medium bodied, and then Montepulciano still medium plus, but all fantastic accompaniments to a summer table. Serve them cellar temperature or slightly cooler than room temperature, and they all have great refreshment, which is very important for summer red wine drinking.
Hope you enjoy. Cheers.